Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin.
And I'm Arthur Nowlin.
And welcome to Making It Work. How you doing, Arthur?
I'm fine, Kim. How about yourself today?
I am good. You know, a little chilly outside, but God is good.
Yes, yes.
Now listen.
They call it Arctic frost or something.
Really?
Yeah.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
But you know, that's Michigan. You never know what to expect.
Yes.
You know. Yeah. But listen, I want to ask you a question. You know, you've been a social worker how long?
Oh, man. I would say at least 28 years or so.
All right. And in your years in the field of social work, how have you learned to help people dealing with loss and death and dying? How have you dealt with that over your years?
Well, basically, we have to get to help them to continue to communicate about the issues, especially when it's someone that's really close to them. Mm-hmm. There's a different levels of grief, you know. So, but when it's really a close relative or someone that you really have a good friendship with, it's a little bit more difficult.
Why is it difficult for people to come into counseling to deal with their grief? What is it?
Well, some of them don't really think about it coming into counseling. They just think they have to deal with the loss themselves. But you and I know that the more you communicate about it, the more that you express your feelings, the better it becomes. But it's never to a point where you just totally forget about it, especially if it's a parent or a real loved one.
Wow. Well, today on Making It Work, we have a very special guest. She's been in my life all my life. And she has been a mentor, a big sister, just a wonderful person, a role model. But she has gone through something. She has joined us today, taken a special time to be with us on Making It Work. Let's welcome Mrs. Genora Jones. Hi.
Hi.
How are you, beautiful?
I'm doing better.
Excellent.
I'm doing better.
Well, Genora, we wanted you to come on because over the last few years we've been seeing you and watching you, but we were waiting to invite you. When we got this opportunity, you were one of the first persons we thought about to interview. But the Lord said, wait. And then I contacted you, and you said yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we want you to share with our 3ABN Dare to Dream family your testimony. Can you tell our family and our viewers what happened in your life? Tell your testimony.
Well, I did have a very traumatic experience with the loss of my husband, David Jones. He and I were very close. We've been married for 10 years.
Wow.
And it's as if it happened, just recently. In fact, tomorrow will be the anniversary of his death. Yes, it will be.
What?
Yeah, he was in an accident on January 23rd, 2006. And even though it's been 7 years, it's still, sometimes pretty hard, for me. I have feelings of loneliness, emptiness sometimes, not necessarily bitterness. Initially I had that feeling, but not now. And, it was just a great loss for me to lose David. To tell you what happened, I think it's easier for me to talk about it now. Before, it really wasn't. In fact, I think I suppressed the whole incident to the point where my family was really worried about me. I was being seen by psychologists, psychiatrists, and was eventually diagnosed as severe depression. But, when I have to bring it to the forefront, as I'm doing now, I do remember, the morning that it happened. David, with my being a nurse, you know, I worked odd shifts, and David and I were like 2 shifts in the night there for about a good month, you know. And one night, I was about to get off duty. It was around 11 o'clock. David called the emergency room where I worked and said that he would wait up for me because he normally had to get up at 3 o'clock to get ready to go to work. And he said he would wait up for me this particular night. And I thought it was rather strange, but he did. He waited for me. And of course, we spent time together. It was a beautiful time that we spent together, and, you know, and then eventually drifted off to sleep. And around 4 o'clock, he was ready for work. And the last thing I remember was, you know, him kissing me goodbye. And the next thing I remembered was a knock on my door, because apparently I had fallen asleep right after David left. And the knock on the door was so loud, apparently they had been knocking a while. And when I went downstairs, it was the police. And the first thing I thought, you know, of course, my son at that time was in Iraq. And I thought, but I didn't see any soldiers or military people, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I asked them, I wouldn't open the door. I asked them, you know, why are you here? And they said, ma'am, please open the door. And I said, no. I said, you're going to, of course, I was very hysterical. I'm being very calm now. But they said, well, call 911 and the operator will tell you. And when I called 911, I told her who I was, where I lived. And she said, ma'am, open the door for the police. I opened the door, and that's when they told me. And it was so traumatic for me. You know, I really, you know, I kind of lost exactly everything that went on, but I do remember calling family and having family members come by. And for, you know, I can't honestly tell you everything that went on, but it was very, very traumatic. You know, it's amazing. If you don't have family members or your church family, I don't think I would have made it through all that. You know, even with all the help from the psychologist and the psychiatrist wanting to put me on medications, you know, and I didn't want to take the medications, of course, because being a nurse, you know, I know all the side effects of some of those drugs. But even with all of my family members that rallied around me, my sister Travis, my brother Edward, my aunt Rachel Franklin, they were there and they're still there for me today. You know, I had family members help me with my finances, you know, to get those things arranged. I had family members, the Baxters, helping me with legal matters. If you don't have people in your life, you know, there's just no way you can pull through something like that. But the one thing that I didn't think of was my spirituality. You know, I wasn't there, you know, at that time. And, you know, there were times when I would go into a deep state of depression. My family was really worried about me because, you know, I was always a very happy-go-lucky,
always.
you know, always laughing and joking about everything. But this experience just totally changed my life. You know, I would eat or I would not eat. My appetite would be gone, or I would eat more than I should. There were times when I couldn't get to sleep, and I was just finally diagnosed as severe depression.
Were you working at that time? I mean, shortly after the incident, how soon did you go back to work?
It actually took me about 6 weeks. For one thing, I couldn't drive because what happened to David was that, and it didn't even take a minute for it to happen from the time he left our porch to the time the accident happened, because someone timed it for me, just to tell me how far they got, you know, and, you know, to the accident site. But what happened was there were some robbers that had robbed a 7-Eleven coming out of Redford, and they took Lasser all the way through, you know, to Southfield. And by the time they got to 9 Mile and Lasser, David was turning up into a gas station. There were no headlights on the police car. There were no sirens, because apparently they had caught up with the young men that had robbed the store. And just as the police approached their car, they took off. So the police, without thinking, just took off after them. And that's why David wasn't aware that these cars were coming, because they were going at high speed with no lights, which was brought up in court, but that's, you know, another story.
So was it the robbers that hit David, or was it the police?
The
robbers hit David.
Yes, and the passenger, the young man that was a passenger in the car, he was killed.
He died too.
Yeah, there were 2 families affected by this, mine.
And David was killed instantly.
David was killed. He according to the reports, he lasted 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay.
And so it probably knocked him out. And I guess, you know, about 2 minutes, according to the coroner, he lasted about 2 minutes.
So the police officers didn't have their warning lights or police lights on?
No,
siren.
they didn't.
So when you said to go back to driving, you couldn't drive to work because of this connection to David's death.
Yes, that's exactly. At least that's what the psychiatrist is telling me, because I couldn't drive, and I'm very nervous right now, so you have to forgive me.
You're doing fine.
Fine. Excellent.
I couldn't drive for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and to this day I can't go to the site. You know, once I was in, I think it was a friend that was driving me someplace, and they accidentally turned left towards 9 Mile instead of right towards 10, and I went into a panic that you wouldn't believe. And they didn't know why. All of a sudden I was grabbing them and telling them, you've got to stop this car, you know, and that's how severe it was for me. I'm not quite that bad now. I'm not that bad at all now, but I still cannot go to the area. And after about 5 years, I finally moved. My sons were telling me I needed to sell the house and get out of the area. And so I did. So I'm no longer in the area, but I don't forget. No, you really don't forget. You know, as I was saying in the beginning, were it not for my family, my immediate family, and my church family, believe it or not, they still rally around me. Sometimes it's still very lonely, even with all the people that come to me and that have been so very comforting. It's still a very, very lonely time for me, you know, not to have them, you know, long days and even longer nights, you know, because my nights were the best time, because that was the time that David and I would come together, you know, until I started working these weird shifts, and then, you know, he having to get up at 3, you know, it kind of took away, but the evening time was our time.
It's almost like the Holy Spirit, what we know was the Holy Spirit, to have David stay awake and wait for you, because God knows the beginning to end.
Yes.
And to comfort you during that time, to have those memories, those last memories of him, you know. And thinking about, you know, the church family, how has your spirituality grown from this situation? Where are you now with the Lord?
I'm still on that journey to getting better spiritually. And I realized that, you know, my journey is not just one step, it's several steps to my destination, and my destination is to be saved. You know, but I had to really think in terms of my spirituality. And since all this has happened, and since I'm beginning to come around again, I think my walk with the Lord is even closer now. I depend on Him for everything. I mean, even minor things, you know. And when I, you know, lost keys, or, Lord, direct me to this place or that place. And then major things, of course, because I was, along with the church, prayed for my son to make it back from Iraq or Iran. And he did.
Praise God.
Yes, he did. And
was it a point, though, at early on during this grief process that you felt that God had abandoned you, or that He was responsible to some extent? I mean, these are feelings that occur when people go through a tremendous loss, such as yourself. How did you stay connected, or did you feel that He had abandoned you?
Well, when I think in terms of my spirituality, initially at that time, I was too numb to even think along those lines. But I do remember hearing different people in the area around me asking that question, why did God let this happen? But I never thought like that. I don't know if it was because of the numbness or the shock from the trauma or what, but I never really thought along those lines that the Lord had abandoned me, because when I started thinking in terms of my spirituality, I was really on the road to recovery. And I wanted to have that closeness with the Lord. And when I feel that loneliness, I do call on Him. And I have asked the question, when will this pass? When will I get through these feelings? It's not as traumatic for me now. The weight from what I was feeling at that time has lifted somewhat.
Yes.
But it's still there. And I think with it being there, it has been a humbling experience. I know that other women have experienced the same thing that I have. I joined a group called Women of Wisdom, and they were all widows. And, they expressed some of the things that they went through. And fortunately, it was a Christian group. And so, they were right in line with what I felt or wanted to feel spiritually, and that helped me a lot. And I would recommend groups like that for women that are going through, the loss of a mate, or the loss of anyone close. But the loss of a mate, I would suggest a group therapy, so to speak. But we just talked.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you, as you referred to earlier, your family got you through the experience, and then your church family. I think that's so significant, because a lot of times we don't know which way to turn. And like you said, your family stepped in and took care of legal matters, financial matters. Sometimes, you're going through such a traumatic experience, you can't do it alone. And your family recognized that, and they didn't want you to feel alone. So that's very significant.
So now, what's in the future for Genora? What's going on now? Dating. You think you're ready to get back out there? Where are you with that?
Funny you should ask that.
I go for that, question.
I knew it was coming up, though.
I think I'm ready now, not that I need someone to buffer, necessarily what I've gone through, because this happened, and that's something that I can't change. But I do think that I'm ready for a relationship or a companionship. But it's something I think I would probably just not jump into. There are so many women, and I've heard this happening before. They're so lonely that anyone that come along, they're just ready to get in a relationship. Whoever he is, he has to be God-fearing.
Come on now.
He has to be God-fearing, because I don't want to be lost, and whoever the Lord blessed me with, I want to be saved, and I want him to be saved as well. So to answer your question, yes, I think I am ready. All right. And that's something I've prayed about and asked the Lord to to guide me in that.
What about internet dating? What do you think about that today?
Wow, Kim,
What?
Riley, come on.
You know, we have the SDA, internet, dating. They have the Christian dating online. You know, 2 of our Lake Region pastors met their wives on the internet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what's your opinion of that?
Well, I think you have to be very careful with something like that, even with Christian internet type dating, because the devil is so busy. And I want the Lord to lead me. Even if he were to lead me to internet dating, I want Him to be in the forefront and guide me through whatever channels I have to go through to get there. But but just to be on any website, I think sometimes I feel like it's dangerous because you don't know the individuals on the other side of that screen.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's why before I would even venture out with that, that's something I would really have to pray about.
I would pray
And
about
ask for
it, too.
Yeah,
guidance.
I know you would.
I would pray. Anything, happen. I don't know. We talked about this on another program.
Wait a minute,
Genora.
wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Why can't it happen to you before it happened to me?
Listen, wait, hold up. No, we going together, okay? But, we talked about it on another program. You have to excuse him, And and we talked about it. And I said, if I saw your picture, would I say, And if he saw my picture, what would you do?
I was saying,
Would you select me? What did you say? I think you said on the last broadcast.
that's a possibility, but we have to see what the competition is.
What? See there? You see that? Do you see that? Knowing what you know now, you didn't give the right answer. I would see you at, we taught and at the same college. And in Detroit, and you would always, give me a hug, a smile. You've been the same. She's been the same. Same. I knew her first, though.
Yes, you did, but ever since I've been in church, you and David have really reached out to me, and I must say, I really, really appreciated it, how kind and how supportive you were of me when I first came into this church. And that was last, and David and I, we were just like brothers, because we always really greeted each other in an enthusiastic and motivating way. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Weren't you teaching him to play the harmonica?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, that's right.
That.
Did he go? He bought one, and
yes, he did.
Yeah,
and would play and play
and play. Yeah, he's
yes.
Play and play.
But what I want to say though is that I really appreciate both of you. I mean, you are God's gift to man, I tell you. And you haven't changed at all. You're just as sweet as you want to be. And the both of you together, I can tell that you love each other. And that's, that's a testimony in itself to those that are trying to make their marriages work and, just love each other. And I'm telling you, love each other and nonstop because you just never know.
I appreciate that.
Never know.
I tell Kim that all the time.
You gonna cancel your golf trip and stay home with me?
I'm gonna love you from afar.
He got his golf trips. He's not giving up those golf trips.
I see.
I tell you, if I was in labor, he would still go probably. Thank goodness I had the baby after his golf trip. But I really appreciate that, and I thank you because again, and David and I were friends. Coming up through camp meeting and his sister Jill and then you lost your sister-in-law.
Yes.
David's sister.
Right, his oldest sister.
Yeah, Joy.
Right, and I do, I do feel for his mom because she's lost her oldest child and her youngest child, But she's a God-fearing woman as well.
Beautiful.
What about your sons? How did they respond to the situation? And I know they were out of the state. I think you have one that's in California.
Yes.
Is he still in California?
Yes, he's still in California. Actually, two of them live in California, but one is in Texas right now going to school, finishing up. And I do have one here, the son that went overseas. He's here, and Christopher is still in California. But it was devastating for them as well. You know, they were just beginning to get adjusted to the fact that, you know, their mom had you know, David in their life, in my life. And so they saw how happy, you know, he made me. I mean, you know, we had the typical marriage, you know, you have your ups and downs, but they were very accepting. You know, it was difficult for them at first because David was so young and they had to adjust. But they did, and when I lost David, I had to have Red Cross send for Andre, and they did. They brought him home. And it was devastating for them, but I think it was even more devastating for them to see how the whole thing how it affected me. And so that's where their concern was, you know, for me and my well-being.
Did you get a lot of rhetoric, even with the support of friends and family? Because David was younger than you in the beginning. Did you get any of that?
Yes, I did.
But you didn't pay any mind.
Yeah, I did. I did because David was 12 years younger than I am. And there were times when people even said, oh, is this your son? You know, so, and it was okay. I said, no, this is my husband. And then eventually people saw that there really, just to look at us, they say they couldn't really see the age difference.
Right. Couldn't.
You know, but yes, I did experience that with a lot of people, especially those that grew up with David and those that grew up with me. You know, they thought it was different. But it was okay because I felt blessed.
I want to say how much we appreciate you coming, and we're going to be praying for you.
Most
we're going
definitely.
to continue to love you, and we will continue to keep an eye on you. And I know, you know, we'll be eating cake at your next wedding. I know that. How God has blessed you, He's going to bless you again.
One final thing, what would you say to someone who has gone through those experiences?
Well, I think the main thing that I would say, you know, of course, when something is traumatic, you don't think as clearly as you should. But, you know, we can't afford to push Christ out of our life. He never moves. We're the ones that's moving. And I feel that as long as we're doing things according to His will and making Him a part of our life, He will guide us through whatever difficulties we're going through. I couldn't say that at first. But I believe that now, and He's still guiding me. He's my counselor, He's my friend, and He sympathizes with me.
Amen.
Sister White says that,
Amen.
And it's so true.
Well, I thank you for those closing remarks. I know it's going to help heal many souls. Well, thank you for joining us here on Making It Work. I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin.
I'm Arthur Nolan.
God bless.